This month in worship, we're having a variety of special Sunday services. I'll be taking time off this week, so next Sunday we'll be joined in worship by Reverend Gary Fries. And then the following Sunday on April 25th, we'll be having a special creation celebration in honor of Earth Day. And of course, today we are continuing our Easter celebration with joke telling. You know, Easter Sunday is really the beginning of the Easter season, a period of 50 days that stretches from Easter Sunday to Pentecost. And this season invites us to reflect more on the meaning of Easter and how we live it out in our lives. But have you ever thought about how you would explain Easter to someone else? Well, there's this story about St. Peter who usually greets people as they come to the gates of heaven. And one day, 3 people are coming, and St. Peter decides to switch it up a bit and gives them a pop quiz. So he turns to the first person and asks, "What is Easter?" Well, the first one goes, "Oh, well, that's easy. It's a day in November when we all get together with our families, eat turkey, and share what we're thankful for." Peter cuts him off and says, "That's wrong." So he turns to the second one and says to her, "Tell me, what is Easter?" And she says, "Oh, Easter is a holiday in December when we put up a nice tree, exchange presents, and celebrate the birth of Jesus." Peter says, "Wrong again." So he looks over to the third person and says, "Tell me, what is Easter?" Now the man says, "Oh, I know this one." And Peter's a little incredulous, but the man goes on. "Easter's a Christian holiday that remembers Jesus' last days. Jesus was arrested and turned over to the Romans who crucified him on a cross. And after he died, his followers took his body and buried him in a nearby cave, sealing it off with a large boulder." Peter began to smile with delight as the man continued. "And every year the boulder is moved aside so that Jesus can come out. And if he sees his shadow, there's 6 more weeks of winter." Based on the weather we've had this week, I think it's safe to say Jesus didn't see his shadow last Sunday. Now, some of you may remember this from when I've mentioned it before, but growing up, I wanted to be a dolphin trainer. And no, that's not the joke. You see, before I landed on being a dolphin trainer and then later on being called into ministry, I had explored a few other career options. I thought about taking a position at the orange juice factory, but I was worried I would get canned because I couldn't concentrate. And when I realized that wasn't going to be a good fit, I thought about taking up a job as a can crusher. But I decided not to when I realized that it was just so depressing. And after that, there was a period of time where I thought about being a banker, but then I lost interest. All right, did you know England doesn't have a kidney bank, but it does have a Liverpool? What did the pirate say when he turned 80? "Aye, matey." I had a friend who went bald a few years ago, but still carries around an old comb. He just can't part with it. There was a man who was circling the block looking for a parking spot, and after 3 unsuccessful times around the block, decided to pray, "God, if you open up a parking spot, I'll go to church every Sunday and tithe 10% of my income." Immediately, a spot opens up, and so the man prays, "Never mind, God, I found one." There was a woman in labor who suddenly shouted, "Shouldn't, wouldn't, couldn't, didn't, can't." Now her husband was nervous, and so he turned to the doctor and said, "Doctor, is she okay?" And the doctor replied, "Don't worry, those are just contractions." What's the opposite of a croissant? A happy uncle. All right, what do you call it when Batman skips church? Christian Bale. Get it? All right, there's a missing part of the Bible that says where God is talking to John and says, "Come forth and you shall be granted eternal life." But John came 5th and got a toaster. All right, in all seriousness, the Bible does mention that Moses led his people through the wilderness for 40 years. So it seems even in biblical times, men avoided asking for directions. Why should the number 288 never be mentioned? It's too gross.
Boo.
Get it? It's a math joke. All right. There was a man who was driving along the highway and saw a rabbit hopping across the middle of the road, and he swerved his car to avoid hitting the rabbit, but unfortunately, the rabbit still jumped in front of the car. Now, the driver, being a sensitive man and also an animal lover, pulled over to the side of the road and got out to see what had happened to the rabbit. And much to his dismay, the rabbit was dead. The driver felt so awful that he began to cry. Now, there was a woman who was also driving down the highway and noticed the man standing on the side of the road crying. So she pulled over, got out of the car, and asked him what was wrong. He explained, "I feel terrible. I accidentally hit this rabbit and killed it." So she said, "Don't worry. I know just what to do." So the woman went to her car trunk and pulled out a spray can, and she walked over to the dead rabbit and then sprayed the contents of the can on the rabbit. Miraculously, the rabbit came to life, jumping up and hopping down the side of the road. The man was astonished. He couldn't figure out what substance could be in this woman's spray can, so he ran over to the woman and asked her, "What's in your spray can? What did you spray on that rabbit?" Well, the woman turned the can around so that the man could read the label. It said, "Hairspray restores life to dead hair." There was a businessman who ordered flowers to be sent to the opening of his friend's new branch location. When the businessman got there, he was shocked to see the flowers with the inscription, "Rest in peace." Outraged, he went to the florist to complain. And the florist just said, "You know, it could be worse. Just think, today someone was buried beneath a floral arrangement with the inscription, 'Congratulations on your new location.'" I heard recently that there was this church council who met to discuss the pastor's compensation package for the coming year. And after the meeting, the chair of the church council told the pastor, "You know, Pastor, we're really sorry, but after this past year, we determined that we can't give you a raise this upcoming year." But you must give me a raise," the pastor said. "I'm but a poor preacher." And the church council chair said, "We know. We hear you every Sunday." When God was creating the heavens and the earth, God was also talking to one of his angels saying, "Do you know what I have just done? I have just created a 24-hour period of alternating light and darkness on the earth. Isn't that good?" And the angel says, "Yeah, but what are you going to do next?" And God says, "You know, I think I'll call it a day." Thanks so much for sharing in these jokes and laughters, friends.